All right, we welcome you into the debut edition of the Hometown Sports Huddle here on WDBJ7 Plus. I'm looking forward to this. We've been talking about this for a while. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Wall, sports director here, and we got the whole crew with us today. We've got Austin Hicks. We also have Mitch Carr.
What's up, everybody? You got the dressed down casual Mitch Carr because I've been on a road trip today.
This is the Mitch we see on a general basis. Like the Miami gear is always somewhere nearby on the desk. Yes,
we made it.
And we will be talking about your Hurricanes in a little bit. All right, we got a lot to talk about today with March Madness. March Madness is finally here. We have been working our way up, and we have brackets we're going to be talking about. Mine is definitely not going to look like theirs, but we'll be talking about in a moment. But first,
I don't know. I was looking at Austin's bracket, and we're very similar. So I don't know that you and I are going to be very different, but we'll see.
I'd love to hear how we got there. I think that's the biggest question we got. But first of all right, so let's start talking a little bit about the big stories locally. First of all, that UVA is in. They are a 3 seed. Coming off of that ACC championship, whoever wants to start this one, coming off that ACC championship, what did you guys think about where UVA kind of finished up? Do you think a 3 seed was good enough? Think that should have been a little bit higher, lower? Austin, we'll start with you.
I do think that they had a really good run in the playoffs. Towards the end, they played their best basketball going up against Duke, and then I know they were playing not a fully powered Duke team, but they played their best basketball. Duke is obviously the #1 team in the country, and they were able to hang with them. Only lost by 4, so I think that three seed is kind of right for where they're at. You know, they ended the season off hot. They played really well against a high-powered team, and they showed that they belonged in the tournament. So I think that ranking is pretty fair for them.
What do you think, Mitch?
Well, I agree. I think that when those initial NCAA top 16 rankings came out, they were the last ranked number 4 seed. So they were 16 out of 16 for that top 4 ranking. And they clearly improved over the last month of the season to the point where they blew Miami out. You know, I was watching that game. I fell asleep at halftime, and I was so disappointed. And that is after Miami went to Charlottesville and lost by 3 because essentially there was a foul on a 3-point play or a 3-point shot, and that was it. So they clearly improved. The way they took Duke to the brink was incredibly impressive. And so I had them last night in the Final Four. I made a change. I'm sorry, UVA fans.
Oh, no.
This happens this time of year, so I made a change. But we're going to get to that. My point is, I agree. I think the fact that they played themselves up to the 3 line from the 4 line was very well deserved, and they're clearly one of the teams that is hitting its stride, even though they were not able to eventually pull off the upset against Duke.
A way to start us building up followers by just saying, hey, everybody, Virginia's going to lose, and welcome into our first episode.
You have to give people something to hate. And I guess I'll be that guy.
Oh, you're going to be the heel today. Okay. I thought a 3 was right about where they should be because, again, there were those struggles we all saw, but then they played up to the competition a little bit with Duke. Now I want to see a little bit more consistency down the stretch. So as we go, we'll go over the rest of the bracket in a moment. The other story I think that was important to talk about was Virginia Tech, not just not making it to the big dance period, but declining an NIT bid, saying, that's it. And I know we had some internal discussion when that news broke about why would you ever do that. I have my opinions, but first I want to hear what you guys have to say. First, Mitch, what do you think about Virginia Tech just bowing out?
I think you're going to see a lot more of that, especially with major Power 4 teams, major conference teams. I think the issue with so many of these teams is that what they're going to look like next year is going to be completely different. You have guys that are going to go somewhere else for transfer purposes, for NIL money, for any variety of revenue sharing. All that kind of stuff is just going to make it really hard to continue to play as a team when you know that it's not for the national championship. For example, think about football. I'm always thinking about my Hurricanes. Had they not made the national championship game, well, you already did have people in December that were entering the transfer portal. And so I think had they not made the national championship game, you would have seen a mass exodus, whether it be going to the NFL draft or deciding not to play for Miami next year because you can get more money somewhere else. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the names in the transfer portal for Virginia Tech, to see this guy's coming, this guy's going, this guy's going to go play somewhere else. And I just think it's amazing you're going to have anybody play in the NIT, really.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. The NIT has struggles in getting some of these teams when you start seeing teams with sub-500 records sneaking in. But I think the question I have, and I don't know how you feel about this, Austin, is if you're a younger team, and I'm not saying Virginia Tech necessarily fits this model, but if you're a younger team, the NIT is kind of an important opportunity to kind of get that momentum going into the postseason. I understand there's concerns about, not burning a red shirt, in order to get some time in the tournament. But I think, getting that national exposure, getting on TV a few more times and building that, I don't know. It seems like there's enough positives that I would consider it in some situations. What do you think?
Yeah, Dave, you kind of talked a little bit about the red shirting part. That's what's so different between basketball and football. In football, you get 4 games and then you're still eligible to redshirt. In basketball, as soon as you step on the court, your red shirt's burnt. So that's why it's so rough with these tournaments where normally in football, these bowl games are where you get underclassmen, your freshmen, your redshirt freshmen a chance to see, hey, what do I have going into spring ball? And basketball, that's not really the case, because as soon as they step on that court, they waste that whole year of eligibility, and then they lose that year of eligibility and kind of going forward. But one thing I thought whenever I saw Virginia Tech decline it was also I think they sent us a presser about it, saying that they were preparing, some players were preparing for the draft, kind of worried about concerns of health. And I do think that does play a factor, especially the health. It's a long season. They played a lot of tough competition. They play in the ACC, which is some of the best basketball you're going to play. So I can definitely see that as a reason. But there also, I feel like there's a reason for other ACC teams or maybe other Power 4 conferences, because they may not want to go to these tournaments and lose to a group of 5 team. You're in the mecca of basketball in the ACC. That's not a great look, where it's like, okay, we didn't make the tournament, now we're going to go to the NIT, and then now we lose to Kennesaw State or something like that. And, that may not be the best look, but at the same time, I can see both sides. I see how, playing in these tournaments doesn't really help, and it doesn't hurt as well. So it's kind of like, you're playing in that middle ground of, do I do it, do I not? Because we saw it in football with Notre Dame. I feel like that was kind of the extreme, because they didn't make the college playoffs. And then they decided, if we're not going to be in the playoffs, we're not going to be in any bowl game. So I didn't agree.
I just want to say that's a much better example than the Miami example. So, like I said, I'm always thinking about Miami, but sometimes it's not the right thing to think about.
You know what? You're just Miami Hurricane through and through. So you know what? At least we can say that you're a loyal.
That he is.
So we understand. But yeah, it's definitely a tough situation for Tech, just because there is a little bit of a benefit, because you would love to see some of these players kind of get that preview of what next year will look like. But you also don't want to put yourself in a bad situation where now that this freshman that's playing that was going to have his red shirt is now gone, and he may just hit the portal because he may not say like, oh, I don't like what this looks like next year, I'm going to leave. So it's a lose-lose situation. You're going to get hate because you didn't participate. You're going to get hate if you do participate and you don't win it. Right. So it's kind of just a lose-lose situation overall.
But see, I think you touched on it, that burning the red shirt rule, if you step on the court. I think that's something that maybe the NCAA should, at least explore a little bit, doing away with that for a postseason. Like, hey, if you want to play players just in an NIT or a CBI or whatever postseason tournament, don't burn the red shirt for that. They can't play in the regular season conference tournament, March Madness. I get that. But for these other tournaments where clearly you're playing to be the 65th best team in the nation or whatever it is, hey, that's still a banner. You could still hang a banner for that. But I mean, that's something, give the players that experience. Like you said, in football, you can have that 4 games and take them for that. All right. So now, as we look down the rest of the bracket here, so our top seeds are Duke, Arizona, Michigan, and Florida. All of them are strong, but I'm curious to see which of these you guys think are the top, or is the top one right now. Because quite frankly, as I'm looking through, I have nothing wrong with Florida. I really don't have anything wrong with Arizona, but I think it's a battle between Duke and Michigan. If Duke is 100% healthy, I think, and I'm not a Duke Blue Devil fan at all, but no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to lead you on here.
Who is?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, I'd be hard pressed to really deny Duke their flowers this year, but they're not at 100%. So the question is, out of these one seeds, who do you think is the top 1 seed? And I'll open the floor here.
I still think that Duke is number 1 in my book. I'm not a Duke stan. I do have a lot of family that's down in North Carolina. There are all Duke fans. I'm not one of them.
You are.
I'm not one of them. I'm Syracuse. But watching, I know it's super random. Got family that went to Syracuse, so I'm an Orangeman I got adopted into it. But watching Duke play UVA, like they took UVA's best. That was UVA's best basketball, and UVA is one of the best teams in the country. So for them to not even be 100% and to be able to still tough out a win like that, and it's such a high pressure situation like the ACC championship, because that's one of the most competitive conference championships that you're going to play in.
Right.
So for them to be able to make it through that tournament and come out victorious, even that not at 100%, I think they kind of are peaking at the right time. They know that, hey, we're going to have a couple days to get healthy, fully healthy, and then enter the tournament kind of at full force. So if they were able to take UVA's best, there are not many teams that they're going to face along the way. They will face a couple of teams that will be up to par with UVA. But if they can handle UVA's best at their not best, I think they can handle other teams as well.
Mitch, I don't know how you feel about this. I feel like Duke is still elite. I just don't think they're the level they were before these injuries started.
I don't think you're going to like my answer, Dave.
Oh, well, come on.
I think they're the best team in the country,
Really?
and I hate to say that. My wife's a Tar Heel and just grew up not enjoying Duke in any
going home
capacity.
after this is going to be very fun.
She knows I don't like Duke, even if I think they're really good.
Okay.
And so, you have to maintain your objectivity as I sit here in my Miami hat. But I think had I never watched any prior seasons of college basketball, I think I'd be going with Arizona. I think that they are possibly the best team in the country. The thing is, from the Sean Miller years and into the Kevin Lloyd? No, what's his name?
Oh yeah,
Lloyd. Anyway, their current Tommy Lloyd.
Tommy Lloyd.
Thank you. I knew I'd figure it out. Live. This is live on the internet.
Live.
We're live to tens of people right now.
Hey! I'm watching the numbers. We're good.
This is the first time we've done this. I'm sure we'll grow. But
that's right.
Arizona, man, is just. They're really good, and they just have this reputation of slipping on a banana peel every single year. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many times I've thought, well, this will be the year they don't screw up. And they screw up.
Yeah.
And so I have Arkansas beating them purely because of Arizona's past history, and that's it.
Wow.
That's it. It's just, had I never seen Arizona lose in the tournament every year, then I wouldn't be picking that. I think I would pick them over Duke.
You know what?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that you guys are forgetting about Arizona is that they got a secret weapon on their bench. They got Bryce James on the bench. Yeah. So I'm just saying, that's different from the years past. You know, they didn't have him, so he could make a difference. He already burned his red shirt, so he stepped on the court. You never know, he can make that little March Madness miracle. And then, his pops, the GOAT, could make that call to the Lakers, be like, hey, got to get him in here, after he had the
LeBron's lineage doesn't exactly mean anything when you look at the bench of the Lakers right now. That's all I'm going to say, and I'm not even calling anybody out. But all right, so one more thing about this before we get back to more Virginia-based stuff. But looking down your bracket, we're always looking for the upsets. We're looking for the Cinderellas going deep in this one. Is there one or two teams that you are looking at that going, I know they got double digits. I know they're a low seed, but I got them going Sweet 16. I got them going further. I've got one or two. I will put my foot out there here in just a moment because, I'll do one right now. I think High Point is. I watch enough of the Big South tournament.
Our producer Alex is thrilled.
I know. I told him that earlier, and I did not know about Alex's connection to High Point. They have looked fantastic. And honestly, and I'm not saying this because you're in the room with the Miami hat on, but Miami, what I've seen from them over the last month, the 7 seed is way under ranking what they are capable of.
Well, yeah, they beat Louisville in the tournament.
Yeah.
Now, they did lose to Louisville at home, but it was a really close game. Mm-hmm. Somehow Louisville ends up on the 6th line, and Miami ends up on the 7th line. And not only that, they have to go to Missouri, to St. Louis, and play a lower seed in Mizzou, who's now playing 2 hours from home. But to answer your original question, Dave, I really think NIL and revenue sharing from the bigger programs has just killed Cinderella. And we saw that last year. We saw, I think it was only 1s and 2s that were in the Final Four. And I think we're going to see more and more of that because you've got the smaller programs, the High Points of the world, who are almost feeder programs now. Mm-hmm. You're not going to have, a George Mason as an 11 seed, I think, make the Final Four, or VCU that happened in 2011. And so 2006, George Mason, 2011, VCU. I just don't think you're going to see that happening because those guys are not guys that have played together for 4 or 5 years anymore. They are a team that's been recruited out of high school full of guys that are generally hoping to go somewhere else.
I think there were only 5 total upsets, not counting like 8-9 games, because I don't think you really even count those. I think there were only like 5 major upsets in last year's tournament as a whole. It was a very down year. So to add to your point, yeah.
That's just how I feel. And I was kind of disappointed going through it, but I was like, I have a lot of chalk. I think I have USF beating Louisville in the first round. Mm-hmm. That's one of my double-digit seeds that wins a first-round game. I've got VCU beating North Carolina because Caleb Wilson has been hurt and is going to miss the rest of the season. But I just don't have very many double-digit seeds winning games aside from maybe a 10 seed which is a 50-50 game anyway,
Right.
just because of this NIL and revenue sharing and the way we've become so stratified. So I'm sorry, Austin. I'm talking too much, but please.
No, you kind of really hit like the head on the nail. I do think that the era of Cinderella runs is over, because we're not gonna. I don't think we'll ever see another UVA losing to a UMBC, a 16 seed being a 1 seed ever again. Sorry to the Who's out there who are. I'm bringing back flashbacks.
Hold on a second. Don't forget about Robert Morris beating Purdue, because they did the same thing.
Exactly. So.
The FDU. FDU.
Fairleigh Dickinson.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So
come on.
it's kind of. I feel like these eras, when you're looking at the one thing that really, the only outlier with these number 1 seeds, I feel like, is Duke, because Duke is always going to have those phenom freshmen, so they're kind of just a blue blood school. They're going to keep churning out those people. But when you look at Michigan, when you look at Arizona, these are a lot of older guys who are on these rosters. It's not really full of true freshmen like how we see in the past of a Kentucky, where it's like, oh, they have a bunch of phenom freshmen that are going to take them far. There are not many teams that are really built like that anymore. It's a lot of guys going to these FCS schools and getting guys who were first-team all-conference, maybe a first-team all-defensive player that are joining their roster. So that way they build up that defense, because you need defense to be able to make a deep run in the tournament. So I feel like that era is kind of gone. So for me, whenever I make these rosters, I have like a first bracket.
Right.
I have North Dakota State going. I have not watched any of that of them. I'm like, I love.
That's a March pick right there.
That's a March pick. Like I've never seen them play, but I'm like, dang, I would love for.
To be fair, I've not seen USF play a minute.
Exactly. So, and I feel like that's kind of what people are looking at these tournaments when you're trying to pick in the tournament to see, oh, where are these Cinderellas? It's really just kind of, Dave, we talked about it before the show. Right. Just go with your gut. And I just, you know what, something about North Dakota State that I just feel like can make a run, at least win a game or two, kind of just get that Cinderella feeling back.
Austin, I feel like I'm going to put your bracket in my story for tomorrow, which we'll talk about in a moment. But am I the only one? I still look at this and I see like glass slippers all over the place. Like McNeese, we're forgetting about how that big run McNeese had last year. They played strong all season, didn't get any credit. So then they go into the Sweet 16, or at least had a couple wins last year. I mean, I still think I agree with every point you guys have said, but I'm just such a March Madness purist. I just want the upsets. I want big name teams to stumble on their face, which is, I think, something we all secretly kind of root for. We all, if you're not a Duke fan, you love it when Duke gets upset. There's no better feeling than when Coach K would walk off the court trudging like that. I love I was there when UVA lost to UMBC, and sure, it was stunning. I mean, what now? 8 years later, my head
didn't they shoot like 70% from three?
Yeah,
it was absurd.
It was ridiculous, and I just remember texting other people in the sports world, going, "Is this really happening? This has to turn around, right?" We were all, like we'd all just got hit upside the head. We just did not know what was happening. But those are the moments we root for. So maybe I'm just hanging on to this and going, please, I want you to be the upset. I want you to be the upset.
Well, I want to believe in Cinderella like you, Dave.
Right.
I don't want to be so cynical. Last year scared me, though. Last year, sure, we saw McNeese.
Right.
Will Wade is at NC State now. He was a 12 seed last year.
Right.
He's an 11 seed this year. A little bit of improvement moving to the ACC, but at the same time, it scared me last year. I don't think it's going to go the other direction. I think it's only going in one direction, and I've got I've got Duke over Michigan, and those are your top 2 seeds, and those are who I have in the national championship game, because I watched them play in I think late January or whenever that showcase game was. I thought these 2 teams were playing NBA basketball, and everyone else is playing for 3rd and 4th.
I just want to see UMBC make the Elite Eight so they can take on Ryan Odom and UVA. Just have that reuniting. I think that's what we all want to see. We know.
Imagine going back in time and just asking a UVA fan, just be like, "Oh, in a couple of years, this guy is going to be the leader of your program."
Austin, I know Mitch can relate. I can't explain what that night was like. Because when you're in sports, you're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, I think this is how the game might go. You're thinking about your storylines a little bit going in, and then that all gets thrown out the window, and you're sitting there going, what in the heck am I going to do and talk about, let alone what's happening on the court? I mean, insane. All right. One more question as we look to this term before we recap some other things. So we talked a little bit about Virginia, and I think one of the things in watching the selection show last night was very interesting is that some of the national prognosticators let it slip that they thought Virginia had a chance to make the Final Four. In fact, one or at least one, I think 2 of them said, UVA, I got them in my Final Four. They're my sleeper for the Final Four. Is that asking too much of this team? Because I feel like they've been playing at an extremely high level, but there are some tests that they have not passed. Losing to Duke twice is one of them, and they've been having some inconsistent efforts occasionally across the board that I feel like you can't have in the postseason.
I think that they can make a run. I think Final Four is a very, very lofty goal. In my bracket, I have them making it to the Elite Eight and losing to Michigan.
Okay.
So that's where I have them. I think if they make it to the Elite Eight, year one of the Ryan Odom, I think that's an amazing first step in their journey together, especially under this new tenure with Ryan Odom at the head. I think that, like you said, they are playing their best basketball going forward.
Right.
But I think if you just go roster for roster, they do have a lot of scrappy guys who have experience in tournaments and with some successful teams on defensively, which is going to be important in the tournament. When they come against Michigan, I just don't think those rosters are comparable. I think, like Mitch said, Michigan's playing NBA basketball and UVA is playing high-level Division I basketball. So those are like two different. So I think an Elite Eight appearance is definitely feasible. I think if anything past that is just like a woohoo, we did it. You know, guys, like, you know, we made it this far. Like, I can't believe it. But I think an Elite Eight appearance is something that if they do make it that far, I think that's something that Hoops fans can be really happy about.
Mitch, what do you think? Is that asking too much of a Final Four?
You know, Virginia has Oyensu. And
yeah.
he's one of the best defensive players in the country.
And breaking out in the tournament, too.
And
breaking
just
out.
had an incredible ACC tournament. And so, okay, great. They have a really talented 7-footer who plays some defense. Michigan has like 3 of those guys. They brought this guy off the bench, Mara, yesterday, playing Purdue. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, I've never seen him, and I Googled him. He's a 7'3" Spaniard, and the way he passes the ball, I'm just like, okay. So, like, they've got guys on the bench that would possibly be one of the best players in the ACC.
Right.
That depth piece. Not that UVA doesn't have any depth. They don't have any depth like that.
That's true.
And so I originally had UVA over Michigan because I didn't want to just have a bunch of number 1 seeds.
Yep.
But I filled out a second bracket, and I was looking at it, and I just said, aside from I feel like I need to pick an upset here, there's no reason to do that. So I just decided not to do that, and I went with Michigan. And having Duke versus Michigan in the national championship, I felt like that's probably what will happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I got UVA in the Sweet 16, and I think if they do that, I think that's a successful year.
Well,
and
I have them beating Iowa State.
Well, yeah, I do too. But if anything else past that, I think is just bonus on top. And I got Duke winning. All right, we do not want to.
Hold on a second. Who's your national runner-up? Are we 3 for 3?
We are. Yeah, we really are.
Duke over Michigan, all 3 of us.
Yeah, all 3. I mean, I've seen enough of Michigan here on CBS, especially on the weekends, the last couple of weekends, that they have blown me away. And I go, that's the team. That's they've got to be in contention.
They're playing such high-level basketball. Yeah. It's just hard to see who can really beat them when they're playing at their best.
All right. We're going to get back to brackets one more time at the end, but I know we're running a little tight on time. Let's recap a little bit of what happened the rest of the weekend. Now, Austin, you were in Richmond for 2 days doing the high school state championships. And Galax, the girls, the Maroon Tide, that was a really dominant performance from them. I mean, really? We knew they were good. I think we had said in our meetings, like, out of all the teams, maybe they've got the best chance, but boy, that Maroon Tide really took it to them.
It wasn't even coming into the game. You're looking at their roster. And this is a very young team. I think they only had 1 senior, and the rest were freshmen and sophomores. And for them to be able to come out and hit on all cylinders, it was just impressive to watch from the start. I think they went out to a 7-0 run just to start the game, and that just set the tone. They were hitting all their shots. They were hitting all these threes, and it was just the crowd, the environment. Galax, this is a close to a 5-hour drive from Galax to Richmond, and you couldn't tell if there was any other fans in there. It was just Galax, and they rocked the center. It was just so amazing just to watch them make history. And Dave, you kind of pointed to me a coach that was out there.
Yeah.
Can you?
So Verl Brown, who the last time Galax won a basketball title was with the boys team. He was the boys coach 15 years ago, got him the state title, and now he had retired. He was with them for 39 years, and then said, "I'm going to volunteer and be an assistant on the girls team." And here comes Verl Brown wearing that maroon suit, maroon jacket, shirt, pants, and even the maroon shoes.
Even the shoes. I made sure I got plenty of. I kid you not, he was probably the nicest looking guy in the gym. But
true.
It literally the whole game. It wasn't in doubt.
Yeah.
From the opening jump off, the tip off to the end, it was all Galax, and it was just so impressive just watching these young girls just out here and compete. They are making all the right plays. They were all these open threes. They were hitting them. They were doing everything right. It was just amazing to see.
All right, so we're running a little short on time. I want to hit a couple things here, so let's make them quick. First of all, the other game that night was Fort Chiswell and the boys. They did win, went to double overtime, but we have a text chain going here, a text group here at work. Owen Jackson, the sophomore from Fort Chiswell, not only hits the buzzer beater at the end of regulation to go to overtime, but breaks the single-game VHSL record that was held by Mac McClung, a game I was at for Gate City. Mac McClung had scored 47 with ridiculous dunks. Owen Jackson hangs 53 on him in a loss to Louvre. And
imagine scoring 53 in a loss.
I mean,
I was
that
on
kid
vacation.
poured his heart out.
I was on vacation, and you guys are tweeting about it,
Yeah.
texting about it. Sorry. So I take to Twitter, and I'm like, what's happening? I have to see this. So I'm watching Class 1 or Class 1, right?
Yeah, Class 1.
Class 1 boys basketball because it's in double overtime, and my family's like, what are you doing? I said, this guy's about to go for 50.
I mean, talk about not having any fear, just, being a sophomore and going, give me the ball, 2-1, boom, and it goes
They
up.
ran it through him the whole game.
Yeah.
It was, and I was just talking to other people watching the game. It was like, when we walked to the court and the guy came, he was like, he had 53. We're like, he had 53?
Yeah, that was-
And then it took me a second. I was like,
We
okay,
all had
that
to do
makes
the
sense.
math there a little
I was
bit.
like, that one makes sense just because, like, every time they're going down the court, it was him. And he was making all the tough shots, especially in the biggest moment to tie it, to go into overtime. The guts to just pull it from three, and then he cashed it. That was just an amazing moment just to catch that.
It really was. And then the other game on Saturday was the Salem girls, and they suffered a tough loss, 43-40 to Manor. And again, what did you see out of that one? Because that a low-scoring battle, a lot of girls who were really fighting hard. Salem had the lead there with a few seconds left.
Yeah, it was literally a first to 40 game. It was defense. Manor is a high-powered offense. I think Salem held them to their lowest point scored in the entire season. So they were leading all three quarters. Their Achilles heel was they just couldn't get offensive rebounds. Manor had 27 offensive rebounds that game.
Wow.
There were 27 turnovers. There was, I think, 21 offensive rebounds. And that's kind of what really made it hard for Salem to hold on to that lead, especially going into the fourth. And they're going against that full court press the entire game, wore them down and forced turnovers, and that eventually led to their unfortunate loss. It was a heartbreaker.
But a tremendous year, making back-to-back state tournaments like that.
Exactly.
That was a great window for Salem, and Coach Scott Jester did a great job. All right, so for those of you watching and thinking this is all just going to be a basketball podcast every day, I promise we have a lot of other things that we're going to be talking about in the days and weeks to come. In addition to basketball, NASCAR at Martinsville Speedway is coming up in 2 weeks. We have a lot of interviews with drivers. In fact, later this week, Stacy Compton, former NASCAR Cup Series driver, Altavis, Hurt native, who's now the general manager of Pulaski County Motorsports Park. In fact, you saw Lindsay's story earlier today on WDBJ7. He's going to be joining us remotely here on the Huddle to talk about his career and reopening of the park. So we have a lot more to come here on the Huddle. We hope you're going to stick with us. But right now, before we wrap up, I want to preview a little something you're going to see on the air tomorrow. Mitch, I think I may have talked to you a little bit now. Also knows what this is. I'm doing a story about, I thought about all the great ways you can pick March Madness brackets. And then I saw a story about using AI. I heard something about using AI to pick a March Madness. Oh, and that's the right reaction, AI. But it didn't, and wait till you see what it did to my bracket. It's crazy. But
I saw AI pick Miami.
The
Final Four that I saw.
Yes, we know AI is reliable. So
it was Miami versus Miami in the Final Four.
It's a no-lose situation. And so I read another article about the worst ways to pick a March Madness bracket. Now, one of them, and Mitch, you're going to help me out with this because Austin knows what this is. Picking.
Do I need to come over there?
What's that? No. You stay right there because this is a blind pick. What it is,
oh boy.
What I'm going to be doing is I'm picking 3 or 4 different brackets, and I'll tell you what I'm doing with them. And we'll see which one performs better. One of them is just picking by your favorite color. What's the prominent color of that team's uniform? And so you pick blindly, like, oh, I like this color, I like this color. And so right now I am down to the final 4. Now I did this at 7-4, but you didn't see that. So this is perfect. So, and again, I'm just going to give you 2 colors, and you're just going to tell me which one you like, and then I'll tell you at the end who was who and see what you did. All right. So the first game we're picking, red versus orange. Red versus orange. Who would you pick in a red versus orange?
I'm gonna go orange.
Gonna go orange. Okay.
Represent for Miami.
But see, you don't know that it's Miami because
I don't. I'm just telling you based on why I would pick orange over red.
Okay. But then here's the other side of the bracket. It's green versus yellow.
Green.
Green. Oh, I'm going to like this bracket. All right. So then that would mean in the championship, Mitch, we would have orange versus green. And you don't know who is who.
Oh, no. Those are.
It's like you take that Miami logo in your hat and just split it apart.
I'm going to have to go green.
You're going to have to. Oh, that's the one I was really hoping you picked because the Final Four was Louisville was the red. Michigan was the yellow.
Oh, no.
But on the other side, it was Clemson in the orange.
Okay.
And your national championship, and we've been polling everybody in the newsroom. That helped us get it down to 8. Mm-hmm. Your national championship, the Hawaii Warriors. Let's go, Bo. Hey, I'm someone who roots for the Cinderella. I got my Cinderella at the end of the show. I think that's fantastic. All right, that's going to do it here for the Hometown Sports Huddle. Again, 6:30 every weeknight. It'll be kind of the rotating crew. Some nights I won't be here. Some nights Austin. Some nights Mitch. But we are going to be here 5 days a week giving you the show. We hope you do see you next time. But for now, I'm Dave Walls. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care.